Good evening. How are we this evening? We are live. It is Wednesday. It is 7 o'clock. Got Marvin asleep on the floor over there, so I think we're just about set and ready to go. We're going to be looking at the Dovecote set of stamps tonight, but I am going to incorporate something that somebody asked me to do, which is how to include beads on the spine of a book when you're sewing it. So I will be doing the first demo on the front of the book that we're going to quickly stitch. So I hope that's okay with everybody. But it makes the point that if there is something that you want to see, I can try and incorporate it into a Facebook Live. So good evening, Maxine. Right, I don't know if my phone, I've got my phone the other side, which is weird, but it's on charge. Right, so we'll make a start and see if a few more people come along and join us. So to do a book with a stitch spine, obviously we're going to be using a cradle, and I've chosen some dictionary pages to make the actual book out of because it's got this nice column. So I fold it down the heart centre, and I have got it with a little bit of brown paper around, which is what we're going to use to, hi Elsbeth, to decorate with the stamps. So this book is approximately A5, so that's fine. I can use the piercing guide and I don't have to mess about, and I want my 5 holes. Okay, nice and simple. And this is a really nice way of making a card into a book and things like that, which we've talked about before. So my holes are right down the middle. Now, the next important job, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do this because all the beads I found seemed to be the wrong size, is make sure that you pre-select beads that your needle will already pass through. So I have checked, these have all got nice big holes. So I'm now going to get my thread, and I want approximately 3 times. Oh, they are lovely, aren't they? The mounts. I was having a little rummage in the room of plenty, which is where those sort of things are, and I still have some of the strut frames left, not a huge amount. I have the mounts in white. I also still have some of those lovely the folder ones, the 8x8 folder ones, so I will have a count up and see what I've got. Right, so before we move on to the stamp set, let's quickly stitch this book. So starting at the middle hole, pull your tail through and then either hold it with your thumb or clip it. Now once you're on the outside, you're going to pick up some of your beads. Okay, now you could plan this a little bit better than me and also pick up ones that haven't got beads in the middle of the, it's because it's out of my mixed bag. There you go. So you want to just put them on. Knew that would happen. Right, start again. I'm also going to make that thread a bit shorter. Hello, you made the live. Right, so who have we got? We've got Mara, we've got Lorena, we've got Amanda, Jean, and Carol. Carol, I loved your card journal scrapbook page. Right, so once you're on the outside, thread your beads on, okay? And you want enough to fill the, hang on, that one's got a bit of bead stuck in it, so I'm not going to use that one. So enough to fill the gap between the holes. So there's a hole, so I need to put a couple more on. I'll only do beads on one section just so that I can speed along, but it's just to show you how it's done. Okay, so just give it a little tug. I think I can get one more on there. Okay, so every time you're on the outside, you thread the beads. Then you go back in your next hole, pull it nice and snug so that they snap into place. When you're in the inside, you do nothing, you just stitch. Once you come round to the outside again, this is where you would thread on some more beads. Okay, so just thread on a few, again making sure that you fill that. If you want to, you don't have to fill the compartment, but it does look nicer if you do. Okay, and then back in your usual hole. So it's exactly the same stitching as you would normally do, but just every time you're on the outside, you're adding those beads. Skip across. Now this does make your thread a little bit heavier, so this tail here could cause you problems, so just keep half an eye on it. Then again, once you're on the outside, I know I said I wouldn't do all of them, but I might as well now I'm here. And also those beads are all over my table. By the way, please note how clean the cutting mat is. That took me about an hour. It's like, why do I let it get so bad? So again, filling that compartment out of that hole, back in this one, and then you'll see you've got one more compartment to fill with beads. So I'm just going to use these last ones here, if I can get that bead out of that one, because I really like that blue one. Because I have a sort of a pot of mixed beads, the little beads always manage to find their way into the holes of bigger beads. So let's put that one on because that's quite nice. So once you've done that, bring your thread back in, give everything a nice little tug. Make sure one thread is one side of the big stitch, one's the other, and then tie it off. And that will secure your beads in place, and then you've got your nice beads on the outside of your book, and we will now start to decorate it with the stamps. So hope that's helped. Okay, snippy snip, snippity snip snip, and then you've got a book with all your beads on the outside. So that was the bit I promised I would do. And now we can move on to decorating it with the Dovecote stamp set. So let's have a quick look at the stamp set. It's an A5 stamp set. I have added these to the website in the hobby art stamp section of the website, but they haven't got their images yet because Paul needs to tweak them. You've made a journal out of last year's calendar. Good idea. For simple bookbinding, do you need a cradle? Do you like your fingers? No. Right, hang on. I've just noticed that TV's doing something weird. Bear with me. Why is it doing that? Oh, I bet I hit the... Hang on. I might not be able to do that. I'll sort that out in a minute. No, you don't need a cradle. You can manage without, but a cradle makes your life so much easier. The reason being, where's my cradle? This is your gap that you are going to pierce into. So I can just press and pierce. Okay, this hand is out of the way. If I don't have a cradle, and I'm trying to pierce this. Now this is fine because this is just one piece of paper, but my fingers are in the danger zone. Also, there's nothing helping you get it ideally on the crease. Because we use the piercing guide with that, it guides your awl into exactly along the crease. Also, when you're dealing with multiple pieces of paper, bear with me a moment. We'll get on to stamps in a second, don't worry, but we like questions. So let's say I want to stitch these together to make a book. I've folded them in half, and now I'm going to pierce my holes. I have got to do quite a lot of pressure to get through all of those together. So I could do them individually, but then you've got to make sure they're all going to line up. Also, did you see, as I'm pushing through, can you see it's distorting the book a bit there? So yes, you can, but it is, hang on, but it is so much easier with it. It just keeps your fingers safe. Does that answer your question, Carol? But it does mean that you can do pamphlet stitches and stuff. It's the one tool that I truly wish I'd had when I first started bookbinding at college. Hang on. All right, in order to get the TV behind me to work, I have to be the other side of the counter, and I can't be. No, can't do it. Might just have to turn it off. I'm just going to turn it off for a minute because I can't reach the remote. There we go. But you can't see it anyway. Right, so let's now do, if you're struggling, yes. I always joke in the bookbinding workshop, I should make them do their first book without it, because then they would truly appreciate it. Right, let's decorate up this book. But I don't, I'm not that mean to them in bookbinding. Maybe I am. Apparently I'm a taskmaster. Right. Dovecote. Now what I love about this stamp set is it's got loads of little scene building bits. You've got this lovely little scenery here, which I have used just on its own. It's like stepped wall of a nice garden going up towards the house. You've got a nice tree, you've got a couple of the dovecotes, you've got a garden archway there, you've got plenty of little doves, and then you've got little bits and pieces, and you know I like my little bits and pieces. Okay. So you've got little corners, little teeny tiny dove there. This nice little florally bordery here, silhouette bird, really handy. So loads in that set. Right. So let's create a little dovecote on the front there. So I'm going to bring in some craft card, and I'm going to take that one. I think that's my favourite, the bit slightly more ramshackle one. VersaFine Claire, and stamp it up. Okay. It's just adorable, isn't it? And in the craft card, it's so, you're not having to do any colouring. Yeah, adding beads to it just adds again a bit more interest to your spine. They could be the paper beads you've made yourself. They could be anything. You just need to make sure that your needle will pass through them so that you're not having to constantly rethread your needle, because that can get mildly annoying. Or use a thinner needle to bookbind. And of course, because you've pre-pierced the holes, you could use a finer needle. Right, so there's my little dovecote. And I'm going to just stamp the doves, a couple of them, on some cream book page. But I'm using the book page which hasn't got any words on it. Yeah, for small book, I used my cradle for all sorts. And the fact that it has that removable end stop means that it doesn't just have to do small books. Okay. How many? I'll only do one dove just for speed. Okay. And I love this. I mean, because I've now got the camera that's focused on my bird feeder, basically to check squirrels coming down. But it's got a motion sensor on it, and the doves are always down. I have quite a few collared doves that come down, and this picture is quite often the notification I get as they come in to land on the bird feeder. Sometimes not quite as graceful as this. That's mainly my wood pigeon, but sometimes when we get home, if it's still light, there'll be a dove just sitting in the basket bit, swinging happily away. They do make me laugh. And then the starlings swoop in, and all chaos. And then you've got the blackbird just sort of darting in and out amongst them all, or the little blue tits, great tits, and my little coal tits are still about at the moment. It's just quite amusing. It's quite a little colony we have out there. Did see the Jenny Wren once, haven't seen her since. But they're so tiny and so fast, you probably would miss it anyway. And I don't think she's sent, I think she's too small to set the... Yes, waxing your thread does help, but when you're doing a pamphlet stitch like this, waxing your thread is less of a worry. It's more when you're using longer threads for doing multi-signature, but that doesn't mean you have to go out and buy waxed thread. You can wax it yourself. Get a candle, get a piece of wax, run your finger, put the thread between the wax and move slowly, and you can wax it yourself. It stops it getting tangled. And right, so we're going to have that like that, and then we're going to have our dove coming up. But I feel it needs a little bit of something. So I'm going to grab a piece of pale, either blue or green. That sagey green's quite nice. Let's have a bit of that. And I think I'm going to tear it to give a nice, because I tore the edge of my book because I'd made it out of a book page. So I'm using my acrylic block to give me a fairly straight edge for my tearing. Now obviously the acrylic block is too big for the front of so I need to make it a little smaller. So I can again use the acrylic block. I just want to create a little panel of green to put like that. Hello Lucy, how are you? Right, my glue has been out all week, so it's very, very thick and gloopy, but that's what we like. So I'm going to put that like that. So that's giving me a little bit of green. I could, if I wanted to, and I probably will because I can. I'm going to grab the tree and I'm going to pick quite a palish colour. I'm going to put that, I don't want it to come off the edge of the panel, I just want to break up that green a little bit. So I used the bit I'd torn off to create a mask so it didn't go onto the brown. It also, I don't know if you noticed, yeah, signed up for that. By also covering it up, it meant that your white edge was a little bit protected. So that's given me a little bit of interest. Then we're going to stick that, I think, about there. I could raise it up on a foam pad if I wanted to, but at the end of the day, this is on the front of a book, so let's go as flat as we can. And then our dove, we could either have it coming off the top there, or it could be down here. It doesn't we're not creating a scene, we're creating a design. Two different things. So add a bit of glue to him and we're going to pop him down there. But what I love about this technique is I'm not having to do any colouring. Using coloured paper and card to give me the colours that I want. So incorporating a nice little bit of book, you can create a notebook themed to what you want, but it doesn't have to always be a card. It can be a book. And it can be a beaded book. Right, let's take you off for a second. Clear the decks a tiny bit. And I'm going to grab some card. She says, you know when you're tidy, there's certain things you kind of forget. And it's like, yes, it's all very well tidying everything away, but I might have needed some of it. So I'm just going to grab my trimmer a second and chop some card up a bit. That'll do. We'll pop that in half, that'll do. That'll give us some to play with. And then there's one little thing I wanted to do. Actually, let's do that first. Right, Dovecote again. Where did I just put me? Honestly, there it is. Right, I'm going to just do my Dovecote again in craft card. But before I do that, I am going to snip off that bit there. All will be revealed in a minute. I keep seeing these come up on reels and I thought, that works so nicely with the Dovecote. So we're going to stamp one. And we're going to stamp another one. But this is really, I only need the shape this time, because I'm going to cut the two out. I am going to use a little bit of artistic license on the stand, because I don't actually need the stand. But then that means I could actually put this onto a stick. So I am going to cut the stand off, because I just want the shape. This is going to be the cover of a little mini book. I'm going to leave the perch on one because I might add a little dove to it in a second. Okay. So there's one. Here's the other. I'm going to cut the perch off this one just because it is very delicate. So round we go. Less cutting round of the tiles this time. So there's the front and there's the back. Then this bit, I need to cut it a little bit thinner. I'm going to, just want to check something. Yeah, you're the one. Bet you won't fit, will you? Ooh, you might do. All will be revealed in a second. Don't be silly. Don't be silly about tidying. That's ridiculous. Corncrake. Ooh. No, we get we get the red kites. We have got a lot of red kites. Right, so I'm doing a little accordion fold here. Actually, no, I want to do it slightly different to that. Just make it a bit shorter. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an accordion fold, but I'm going to get gradually, I'm sort of going to step it. So can you see, each time I'm folding, I'm not lining them up. I'm lining them up at the bottom, but at the top, I'm folding them over, so I'm getting different heights. Okay, that'll probably about do. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to stick one to the front there and one to the back there. And then we're going to put some little doves on it. So for speed, I am going to use book page to stamp my doves onto. I won't do all the pages, but I just want to give you the idea. I saw this done with a set of owls. They weren't stamps actually, I think they were just cut out images, but I thought, oh, that would work really nicely with the doves. Now you could use any of the doves, but I've chosen these two because they actually will be hidden within the book, so you won't see them from the outside. Ask me again on owl stamps next week. We're doing a stock run on Friday. So we're going down this time with the van to collect some more stock. So there may well be owl stamps. I don't know what there is yet. I've got to go down and see what I want. You know me, all of it. Okay, around we go. So just cutting him out. There we go. And I think this one will be nice towards the back. So he's going to be probably the main one there. So tiny spot of glue. So just make sure yeah, he'll be still hidden within the book. And then this one, trying to cut out as quickly as I can. Round we go. I wasn't actually cutting his feathers there. I was sort of just doing a little wiggle with the scissors. But it gives you, because the image is there, it gives you the illusion that I've cut them all out properly, but it's just an easier way of doing it. So round. Be generous with how much you leave his beak, otherwise he would look odd. You know, sometimes like with butterflies' antennas and things like that, I say, you can snip them off. It won't really show, but with his beak, they just look really odd if you don't cut their beaks. So a little bit of glue on there. So what you've created, and you would add more birds to this, you'd have a bird on here. In fact, you could put that little teeny tiny, okay, I know I said I wasn't going to do another one, but let's just quickly, because I think you need to see more birds on this so that it looks really effective. So a little teeny tiny one. We'll have him right at the front. I know perspective wise, the smaller one would be further away, but it's not about that. Again, this is a design, not a scene. So just cutting that round. Oh, this is teeny tiny. I was complimented on the fact that I use giant scissors when cutting teeny tiny things out. You should see me with tiny scissors, I'm lethal. Give me a big pair of scissors any day. Right, so we'll put him right at the front. So we've got these different layers of birds. So when it's folded down flat, it's kind of nice, but then as it spreads out, you can start to see the individual birds. Don't think you'll fit. No, I think you'd show, right, so bear with me a minute. So, ready to put this together. Bit of glue on the back there. Now you could, actually, now I've cut the perch off, that is pretty symmetrical. So we could have it facing outwards. So we're going to put our little book within that, fold that all up, put a line of glue just on that bit, and then press it down, line it up. You could do a nice little fancy tie around, but then when it opens up, you've got your little line of birds coming out of it. Decorate it up a little bit more, but it's a really nice little mini book with all those birds, and you're getting that sense of flight as they move. So it's a bit like almost like our flag book that we did. Right, so that's that one. Okay, next we want a piece of card. We want an ink pad. Not that one. Let's have some brown, some green, some blue, just gonna add a bit of that blue just to give it a bit of warmth. My colour scheme's matching the weather. I love little things. Did you? Let me splat this down first. So I want a panel of colour. Bit there down the bottom there. So I'm re-spritzing, line it back up. Just because it's not perfect the first time doesn't mean that you can't put your acrylic block back down. But try and keep it within the... So on this one, we want a panel the size of our acrylic block. So we're not moving it around the paper like we sometimes do. Okay, leave that to dry. Did you see my leaf So the leaf closes over, and then inside is that lovely little garden wall with the step, and then here's the flowers layered, and it is dimensional. So you're like walking into the world inside the little leaf. And that is a real leaf. It's one of my preserved ones. So I do love sort of miniature things like that. Okay, I'm speeding this up. Actually, I'm going to let it dry a little bit more naturally, because in the meantime, I can do the Dovecote. And I didn't just dry that on my sleeve. That was a towel. That wasn't my sleeve. Don't ever think that. I'm going to go with the other Dovecote because we haven't done that one yet. And I want, again, we're going to go with book page. And this time, I'm going to go with the black, just because I am using book page. If a little bit of the words show through, it can overpower the main image. So this is the more traditional Dovecote that you would imagine would be painted white. Okay. Round we go. So just cutting it out again. The reason I'm cutting it out is I'm going to layer it over, and it means I didn't have to do any masking or anything. Because when you do masking, you've still got to cut it out, so I might as well just do it in a oneer. Okay. So here we go. Round the little knobbly bit at the top. So it's going to go on there. I'm going to just give this a dry because I do now want to stamp into the background as well. I am letting that drip run off. If you want it to be perfect, dab those away. I'm still not using any. No, but this dictionary is out of date. It will have inappropriate words in it, and it would be rejected by a library. So you're okay. And there are certain of my books I don't use. Trust me, quite a few of them. But I do have specific books for using. Because I've got downstairs on a shelf, I've got my mum and dad's entire set of the Shire collection. Now, if you don't know what the Shire collection are, they were small paperback books that were about crafts, skills, trades, items. So there'll be one on caddy spoons. There will be one on all sorts of different things. There will be a Shire book on. And my mum and dad collected them, and I've got all of them down there. So those I will keep, and also I have some proper field guides, you know, bird identification, insects and things like that, and they will always be kept. But charity shops, tatty books and things like that that are destined for landfill, they will get a new life. Okay, so I'm masking off there because I don't want this to come outside of the blob. So I'm just adding my little tree. I like this tree. I like it because it's got a kind of, you almost want to put a swing on it. And then I'm going to use that, where is it? Can't see it. I'll use the railings then. I suspect it's still on an acrylic block in my bag then. This is the trouble when you've prepped a demo and it didn't get used. Your stamps and things are all in the wrong place. So I'm going to use the little railing. I'm just going to stamp this along. Just want something to break up the bottom there. So you can extend this quite nicely. Just don't rush on the lining up. Anybody else impressed that so far I've got these all lined up? Don't rush it. Will I get one more in there? So just in case. So we've got our little railing. Then we're going to add our Dovecote. I will add some doves as well. But to give this more definition, I am going to do a line around the outside so that it's going to tie it all together. And I am purposefully doing it slightly wobbly. Their artistic license, you can let it dribble off or you can draw around it. I'm going round it. If you're not confident following the line like this, use your acrylic block, but just sort of wobble against it and stop at where the Dovecote's going. Okay, so I'm going to quickly glue the Dovecote down into there, remembering where I'd had it, and then we'll do a couple of the doves. The doves in flight is really nice, which I just had, so surely it's somewhere. There it is. So again, I'm going to go back to black for this because this is now more of the foreground. One, two, cut them out and layer them on. It just gives a really nice watercolory feel to this. Now when you're doing this, depending on where this is going to be put, if it's in a frame or a card or something that you can fluff it up a little bit and have the wings standing away, by all means do it. But the last time I did this, I did it on the front cover of a book. Well, you can't have bits sticking up because that's going to get ruined. So you'd stick it down fully. And just by stamping them onto plain paper, but plain paper with a little bit of character. So although it is the plain side, you can just see a hint of the words through it. So it's not boring plain. It's plain with a little bit of character. And then I would stamp the other one and maybe have him coming off the page a little bit there. It's just, you know, you can go to town with this in terms of how much you put on or take away. But this idea of a little panel of colour to give you your basis to start on. And that panel could be smack bang in the middle of a big piece of paper. It's a really nice way of breaking up that white background, which some people find really hard to start with. You know, if you're trying to do a bigger card, but they scare you, let the white space talk. That sitting in the middle there, I know it's just resting on that piece of card, but it doesn't look wrong. It's still strong enough. And that's, you know, that's an A6 size piece of work. Especially, why do I keep missing his beak? Especially if you sort of add a couple of doves flying in from there. It's a nice way of creating an impactful big card, but without having to work big. Working on a big card doesn't mean you have to grab and use 10 ton of embellishments and paper and stuff like that. It just is about how you compose it as well. And white space can work for you. Don't be scared of it, because just remember what you want people to see. We want people to see the dove. We want people to, so let them sing. And it just brings it all together. Right, so that's that one. Okay, let's do this next. So this is our nice little scene. So we want a bit of brown. We want a bit of green. Got another green. Yeah, we have. Different green. Maybe a bit of blue. I am not paying attention to where I'm putting these. A bit more green. That'll do. A bit more brown. Just need to make sure that it's all covered. Okay. And there's two ways you can now approach this. One is give it a good old huff and activate it. And it will bring in like almost a subtle watercolour, pre-coloured design. That works really well if you're using your pens and things. You can be a bit more specific with where you're putting your colour. But purely coincidental that the stairs has had the stronger colour, so you've got that lovely sort of walkway. And then if you wanted to, you could use a damp brush and just pull the colours in slightly to fill it in. So that's one way of using it when you've coloured it like this. But we're going to go with something a little bit different. And obviously I am not attempting to put the colours back in exactly the same place as they were before. Putting a bit more brown in there because that was nice and dominant. Shabby shutters, so a bit of sort of spring green. So this time I'm going to wet the card, pop your stamp down and let it do its thing for a minute or so. And you'll see as soon as it hit the wet, your card needs to be really wet for this. You want it to pull that colour out and you can see it spreading. By leaving your stamp on it for a second, it's letting the colours soak in without the card curling. As soon as you take that away and you're going to go, oh, what's that all about? You can't see the image. Now, while this is wet, just let that settle for a second. Take a piece of paper and just stamp this off. Because what you're creating is a patterned paper. You can't necessarily see what the image is, but you're getting these lovely colours. So we know it's going to coordinate with what we're doing. Okay. That's now settled for a minute. Sometimes find I have to put a bit of colour down first on, to break it up. It can sometimes be a bit daunting to look at a completely blank page. This is better to let it dry naturally, but obviously I don't have that luxury at the moment. So I'm just going to get that dry. Now what I've got is a panel of colour with colours roughly where I want them. So there's the trees, there's the steps. But it's so diluted that it's not going to interfere when I overstamp it. I'm not going to get that kind of double image that you get sometimes if you overstamp and you can see the stamped image below. So I'm going to ink this up with black, position it roughly where I was, press it down. And now you've added colour to that in a really nice fluid way. Then going to tear this out. Okay. Taking your time when you do your tearing so that you've got control. So we've now got our little watercoloured image without me having to do any fanciness. Have I got enough of that? No. Let's use a bit of that. Because I just want a bit of that behind. But I think, yeah, that'll be fine. Just working out whether I want the white to be showing or not. There we go. So take a little bit off the end there. Now that piece of card that I stamped when I was drying my stamp off, you see there, Now it's dry. How lovely and subtle is that? It's almost like a tea staining, but you can still you can make out a little bit of detail, but it's not overpowering. So we're actually going to use that as our background, our mat for our card to go on, or book cover, or piece of art. Remember, we don't just make cards here. So might have to treat myself to some fresh glue tomorrow, because that is it's really sticky. It's definitely construction grade now. But say it has been out a week. Actually, probably more than a week, because we used it on Saturday and it was already old at that point. In fact, I think it came back from the telly, so it's well old. So there we go. We've got our mat done using the cleanup from this lovely little technique here. So similar idea. Let's do a spotlight kind of idea. So let's see, what have we got? Where's that green gone? So you've seen me do this before, but I think for this particular stamp, it's going to be fabulous. That's like new colouring books I've seen. You had in the black lines and oh yeah, I think I know what you mean. Has anybody seen the reverse colouring book? Is that the one you mean? There's something called a reverse colouring book. I'm pretty sure that's what they're called. And it's basically like an inky blob, and then you put the black lines over it. Is that the one you mean, Maria? I think that is. Yeah, they're called reverse colouring books. They're fabulous. It's a bit like sort of a really fancy ink blot idea that you'll look at it and some people go, oh, that's a bunch of flowers. Obviously it's not, it's just paint in a particular way. But yes, they're quite cool. Makes you think a little bit, especially for people that can't necessarily see shapes and things. We were driving along and I'll go, elephant. It's not, it's a cloud shaped like an elephant. Yeah, Paul's used to it now. So I'm going to just use, I was going to see if I'd got the green, I'd matted that on, but yeah, yet again. How can I lose stuff in such a short space of time? So we're going to stamp this here. And then I'm going to tear, but this time I don't want the white edge to be on the piece of paper that I'm keeping. So tear towards yourself, snip it out, and then you're going to line it up. I think actually I want to take more of that off. So again, I'm going to come back, remembering to tear towards myself so the white goes behind. So I really just want the steps. And then you can just line it up. Now this always looks really weird while that coloured piece is just floating around. What I mean by floating around is, so I just got to line that up, there you go, it's off, you've got the white here and the white there, so it looks like it's a piece of paper stuck on top. So what you need to do is take this one step further. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the ones you mean if you Google reverse colouring books. So to make this work, you want to cut the main piece down to the same height, or you cut it down a little bit, but you want the coloured paper to run off the top, and then it looks like it's a conscious decision and you've not just stuck a piece of paper over the top of a stamped image. This, as well as creating a real interest and focal point into your project, is a really good one for recovering messed up stamping. So if you haven't inked enough, not applied enough pressure, there is a way to recover your stamped image quite easily. So don't ever reject it because you can create something like that. And I think that just draws the eye in, again, without having to colour in. If you like colouring in, yes, colour in. But if you don't, this is the sort of technique that you want. Right, how are we doing on time? 5 minutes. Right, what have we got? What haven't we done yet? Let's have a look. We've done the Dovecotes. See, I liked that idea. Very simple, just using colour or not colour. So we'll do something along those lines. What have I got? Colour-wise. Grey, that's a bit me. Let's mix it up. Let's go a little bit sort of pop arty. No, or green. I quite like that pink, that cranberry colour. That might work. It doesn't really matter what colour you use. Oh, I'd taken that page out of the dictionary because I thought that might be quite nice because that's the page with peace on it. So, which Dovecote we're going to go with? Doesn't matter because I ain't got to cut it out, so it's fine. So I'm going to go with black. And again, the reason that one works nicely is because I've trimmed it down and the birds are going off the page. So your nice little Dovecote. Yeah, I know that's really bad, stamped right in the middle there, but let's trim it down a bit. And obviously we save all these bits because you never know when you're going to need a piece of cranberry colour, or we pile it up and we use it for waste not want nots later. So that. Don't know how I lose stamps in a short space of time. Ooh, silver, I don't want silver. Let's grab a bit of our black grey board. I still haven't added the black grey board, it's an oxymoron, to the website. I will get round to getting things on. I'm sort of having a little bit of a shuffle round with the website and sorting things out, but I have remembered to add. Right, so I'm matting it on cream. Now this is breaking my sort of usual rules because I would normally make the doves out of the colour I've just trimmed. But then when they're floating off the page, they might not stand out quite as well. So I'm actually going to stamp them in a different colour again, but keeping it as a pale creamy colour. Have I got any blanks in there? There's a bit. I'll only do 2. And let's do these lovely big flying ones. Ah, hello, Mr. Adam Humphries. How did I not spot you sneaking in? Because I'm not paying attention, that's why. Sorry, Adam, that's really bad, isn't it? How are you? Did you have a nice Christmas? Happy New Year and all of that malarkey. Seems really weird saying that because it does seem like ages ago. We're only 2 weeks into January. But we all know January is 15 weeks long, so there we go. I just love these doves. They're so... I mean, it would work for so many different occasions or just prettiness. So quickly cut that out. So it is, can you see, it's just a slight different tone so that when we put them onto here, they will look different and stand out a little bit. Because it is quite funny because you think, oh, I've got cream card, and then you'll pick it up and it'll be a completely different cream. It'll be a creamy cream or a whitey cream or a yellowy cream, and it's the same with white. You know, you would think that white paper is the same, and you can have it and it's a bluey white. So having a sort of variety of them means that you can keep these quite neutral tones but still have interest in it. Or, as I say, using book page, even if you are only using the plain bit of the book page, by using book page where you've got a hint of the words coming through from behind, you're going to have, you see, it stands out. And even if we have this one overhanging, it's not getting lost in it. I'm going to cut the last one out. Obviously, the blue one. Yeah, that is my go-to technique for, because it could be a pattern paper, it could be book page, it could be anything, but it's just great. And also, if you're a bit frugal with your tearing, you can almost get sort of 3 cards out of 2 stamped images. So it is quite a handy one to do. And again, it's one for using up your papers that you might not want to, you know, you've fallen out of love with them, but you can't bring yourself to just donate them or get rid of them, because, you know, paper's paper and you've invested money in it. So a technique like that, where the design of the paper doesn't really matter because you're stamping over the top of it, it's quite a handy one. So there we go. Just add some little doves floating around. And then on this one, I did add the sort of one closer to the bird house. But it's nice just to mess about with patterns and colours and things like that. So I think, my dove just flew off. I think we ought to probably call it a day, because it is very nearly 8 o'clock. And there's going to be a little puppy snoring in a minute. When I switch back to the front camera, please ignore the fact the telly's off, but I think, oh, I've just worked out why. Probably put something on top of the remote. But yes, the little logo-y thing didn't work. Yeah, I think cranberry is a classy colour, to be fair, Sarah, I do think. So what have we achieved tonight? We did a cranberry version of that one. There's another dove on the floor by Marvin. We did our little torn spotlight. We did wet stamping and creating a background. That's from wet stamping again. Little block so that you're getting layers and dimension simply. And we also did our little book with our beads on. And then somewhere is our little accordion book. There it is, with our little doves inside, and that I would definitely spend some time adding more details to that. And then probably I think it would be really nice on a little stick, like, you know, probably in fact I tell you what would be really nice is for me to get a twig, attach it to a twig, and then when you open it up you've got the little doves flying out of it. I think it's really nice with birds because it gives it that movement. So you could do it with butterflies as well, would be quite nice. So that's what we've achieved this evening. Right, okay. So please ignore the fact that TV's not on because I pressed the button. So thank you very much for joining me. Next week we will, the last stamp set we haven't looked at yet is Dudley Does Spring. So we'll be playing with Dudley the, really should learn to say his name without going Dudley. Dudley the donkey. So we'll be looking at him, and he's really nice because he's a bit cutesy. So, but if you've got anything like adding the beads to the book that you want me to cover, just let me know. Give me a bit of warning so I can get the stuff together, and I will try and cover it for you as well. In the meantime, have lots of fun, keep nice and warm. I don't know, it was warm yesterday, cold today. I don't know, my crocuses are deciding, are they coming up, aren't they? Who knows? So I might see some people at the weekend because I've got a bookbinding workshop. If not, I will see you same time, same place next week when we will be doing Dudley. In the meantime, just keep crafting, keep sharing, and we will see you next week. Take care.